Hello everyone, Curious Corduroy here, and we just got a buttload of new information in regards to Final Fantasy XVI. The game's producer, Naoki Yoshida, has done interviews with a multitude of different outlets, and I've tried my best to kind of compile some of the really cool standout information that these interviews contained. I do apologize if there's anything I missed. Like I said, a multitude of outlets are covering 16 at the moment, so anywhere from Kotaku to Polygon to PlayStation Blog to Games Radar. If they're a gaming outlet, they've probably covered this, so all of this information has been scattered across all of these different websites, so I'm bound to have missed something at some point, so I apologize if I do. So I've tried to compile all of the really cool standout information for you guys so we can kind of spark notes this information and run through it. So the first one is the biggest reservation that I had, and I know a lot of people had, was the lack of a party. It seemed like this was going to be a solo adventure where it was purely just Clive. However, Clive will indeed have a party of AI-controlled companions. Some of these companions will have big story arcs themselves and enter and leave your party depending on where you're at in the story, but they will help you out in battle and provide party banter along the way. So almost Kingdom Hearts-ish to a degree, or maybe Final Fantasy 15-ish if you played the vanilla version of Final Fantasy 15, where you controlled Noctis and you could issue commands to some of the characters in your party. The second bit of information we got is that Clive will have a companion with him throughout the entirety of the game that he can issue commands to, and it's kind of being hinted at that the dog that we see in the trailer will be that companion, and the dog actually has a name, and it's Torgal, which I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Really weird name. Come here, Torgal. Doesn't really roll off the tongue. I kind of feel like I'm slurring my words when I'm about to say it. But it looks like Torgal might be our AI companion that we can sick on enemies, and maybe, he can heal us in battle. The next thing is that the game will be M-rated to help tell a more mature story properly without having to make sacrifices due to a teen rating. So it won't be M purely for blood and gore or shock factor, but instead be M to allow for more creative freedom, which explains the post-coitus scene we saw in the newest trailer, as well as some of the shots of blood splattering on people's faces. Now, oddly enough, I didn't realize this was such a huge issue, but in Final Fantasy VII Remake, apparently there was a lot of people that were mad that the Jenova blood trail scene was taken out of the game and instead replaced with the purple alien goo. Believe it or not, there are people who are like, that's my favorite part of the game. You guys took out the blood trail. I'm angry now. You ruined this whole entire universe. I didn't realize that was the case. I personally had no issue with it. Jenova is an alien being after all, so I would expect her to have purple goo instead of red blood. But for those who didn't like that, you don't have to worry about 16 pulling any punches. There will be blood and gore in this story, but it's not for any shock factors. It's to just try and tell a more mature themed story. Combat is much more action-based, but Yoshida said there would be systems in place to help players who are less experienced. So perhaps there will be a difficulty mode where you can focus mostly on the story without having to worry too much about doing combos and utilizing your magic. Maybe there will be like auto combos or auto magic or stuff like that. They haven't expanded upon that little detail, but I'm assuming it'll probably be an easier mode that is more story driven and story focused, so you can just pick up a controller and just kind of hack and slash away at your heart's content. The next big thing are icons. We will be controlling icons in battles against other icons. So icon battles will each be unique. Some are described as 3D shooter-esque, while others are much more melee focused like a wrestling match. There will not be any repeat gimmicks for these fights, and the UI will change slightly each time. So each of these icon battles are meant to be different and unique in terms of gameplay as well as their presentation. So I would expect these to be these really big cinematic set pieces that are scattered throughout the game's story. We have even more information on the icons. Yoshida confirmed that Clive will take on abilities from each icon he acquires that can be used to chain together combos. These abilities will be part of an ability tree where points earned in battle can be applied to the tree for new abilities. However, the abilities you pick are not set in stone, as you are allowed to refund points and put them towards other abilities at any point in time. This will allow for players to change up their play style at will to find out what works best for them. So this is really cool. A lot of times in games you have a skill tree or an ability tree. You might upgrade points on one ability and then decide, oh damn, I kind of wasted my points, I should have put them here. In 16, that won't be an issue. On the fly, you'll be able to change these points at will that you earn in combat and put them towards one thing. And if maybe that one thing you put them towards isn't what you thought it was and you don't like it, refund those points. put them towards something else. That's really cool. Clive will also be able to fight icons in his normal tiny human-sized form, but he will also have the ability to, get this, transform into an icon and do battle with other characters who are doing the same thing. Some icons will be friendly and aid Clive, while others will see him as an enemy. So I'm really curious to see how they're going to do this. How are we going to pull off the transformation of Clive into an icon? Is he going to Hulk out and get really huge, or is there going to be like a light shining on him that transforms him into one of these icons? And it's kind of interesting how they note that some of the icons just will not like Clive. They will be viewing him as an enemy. So I'm wondering if maybe there are characters in the story that Clive has beef with, and those characters sort of have icons, and based on that beef, the icons are just biased towards their masters. So I really have no idea how exactly that is going to turn out. And the last biggest thing is that the game itself will not be open world, but instead have large zones. Yoshida says this is to help make the story feel like it spans an entire globe and beyond, instead of being limited to a single open space, which is really nice. It kind of gives you the illusion that you're globe-trotting around this world and that the story is taking place in all these different parts of the world. So rather than have one large open world map that you're traversing through the entire game, if you're taken from zone to zone with time skips in between, it's gonna feel much more massive in scale. So it gives the illusion that it's a global story, which is really smart. Also, unlike some previous Final Fantasy titles, 16 will be completely self-contained, so you won't need to know anything before going into the game. The story itself will be a complete experience. The story will also focus on Clive's life through his teenage years, his 20s, and his 30s. So we're going to see Clive from a little baby boy to an old man in his 30s. So that's basically all of the information. There's a ton of it. Again, if there's anything that I missed, I will leave the links in the description for all of these articles so you guys can read them in detail. I apologize again if there's anything that I missed. However, that's all the information that I've compiled so far. So please leave your thoughts in the comments below on what you guys think about all of this stuff. What are you excited about? Are you excited that we're going to have AI controlled companions, or is that kind of a turnoff? I've already seen some people who didn't like Kingdom Hearts who saw this article and immediately started to write the game off because they didn't like Kingdom Hearts, which I don't blame them, but the combat in this game looks so much more fast and fluid and just more fun than Kingdom Hearts ever was. That's not a knock on Kingdom Hearts. I like Kingdom Hearts, but the action in this game just looks so much faster paced. So leave your thoughts in the comments below. I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.